So it's review today. TripleElement has been requested to review. Did we do something like this before? Kind of. It's a little different. Given an integer array of nums, called nums, return a new array with length nums times 3, nums.length times 3, where each element in the array appears 3 times in a row. Okay, not so bad. You need a integer array. Integer array answer equals new int of size nums.length times 3. Okay, we can return that just to see that everything's working. Oops, I messed up somewhere. Oh, I spelled return wrong. Cool. 4 things, 12 things. It's an easy one to check. 6 things, so I have 18 things here. 6, 12. Yep. Okay, so that part's nice. Now let's begin our tripling. So when you see array, you kind of think to yourself by this point, hopefully, that you associate, okay, if I need to do things in array, I'm for sure going to need a loop. And we have a choice here. Do we loop through our biggest array, or do we loop through our small array? What's my plan of attack? So not sure just yet. Leave some question marks there. I++. And then here I will do something. Okay. Now I pause and think, okay, what do I want my program to do? I'm probably going to have to check and have like a counter here and a counter here. 2 variables probably, one to keep track of where I am in the second array, my answer array, one to keep track of where I am in the nums array. And so when I see a 2, I need to copy, copy, copy 3 times. And then once I'm done copying, move to the next one, copy, 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 and repeat. All right. Copying looks like, what is it? Ants at some position, it might be I, it might be not, equals nums at some position. We've got to figure out the index. And then here, temporarily, we'll call it I. It may end up being I. That equals that same position. Ants. And then a third time equals nums, square bracket, question marks, same position, eh? So here's my copying 3 times from nums into ants array. And now we got to think, okay, my indices, that's what's important here. I probably need that variable to help me keep track of where I am in my, well, maybe we're good, actually. Maybe I can use just one variable. How am I thinking about that? I is going to be keeping track of nums. Let's see if this will work. Nums.length. So then here, this variable becomes I. This part changes, right? It's not just, it could be dependent on I. And then we think, okay, first off, it starts at 0, yeah? So at that part, it matches up with the first one. Thank you. Then we think, can I do something tricky? So at here, let's copy down this example so that you have something to look at besides just me talking. So here's my nums array, yeah? And then I'm going to show my work. Here's I equals 0. We want for ants, that index to be at 0. We want it to be at 1. We want it to be at 2. And then when you get to the 3, I for nums becomes 1, then our mapping becomes, okay, we need it to go to position 3, 4, and 5 for nums, okay, and now I'm trying to see if there's a pattern here. Looks like this is plus 0 times 3 plus 0 times 3 plus 0 times 3 plus 1 times 3 plus 2. 1 times 3 gives me 3, 1 times 3 plus 1 gives me 4, 1 times 3 plus 2 gives me 5. Nice. Do that once more to see that this pattern does in fact work, making use of just one variable. When I'm at the third thing, this is now position 6, 7, and 8. So that's I times 3 plus 0, I times 3 plus 1, I times 3 plus 2. Translate that into code. That's at I times 3. Can add the plus 0 there so the pattern is seen, although it really does nothing. How's that look? There's my copying 3 times over. Oh, messed up somewhere. Do I have too many comments? Not a statement, line 3. Oh, my third variable. Didn't need it. Ta-da! We're done. Triple elements. That helped. I talked through my thought process on how I approached the problem. There were a lot of things going on in my head that I tried to represent on the screen. I hope it made sense. General problem solving. Notice that I took some time. It's not just immediately brain, think, code, write. Yeah, there's stuff that happens in the middle. And so I highly recommend with problems like these to sketch them out by hand at first. You'll know, it's worth telling you now that when you interview to be like software engineers at Google or Facebook, part of the interview process is having like some people on the team, right, your next manager or whatever, they ask you coding problems, kind of like coding bat problems, pretty much exactly like coding bat problems, and they tell you, okay, go tell me how to solve this problem and write the code out. Except you won't have a computer in front of you. You have to do so on a whiteboard and talk through your thought process, write out the code by hand, and that's a big part of whether or not you'll get the job at like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon. Yeah. You won't have a computer right next to you to kind of check over, like, oh, does this work? Does that work? No, yes. It's kind of fun. Nerve-wracking too. Right. So that's many years down the line for you all, if you choose to work as a software developer. Next question. Squirrelplay. Oh, okay. Got everything right except for other tests. Ah, I see. Squirrelplay. You may have made a mistake like another student did. So I'll go to here. Squirrelplay. So imagine the other tests are just random numbers, right? With temp. So here they showed you 3 examples. Oh gosh. I'm just going to return false right now so I can see what the computer's asking of me. So notice they just try random temperatures here and random combinations of true and false. I imagine your program doesn't handle part of them correctly. I think it is 1, 2. So there should be, all right, so it's either summer or not summer, right? And then each of those have 4 numbers to test, 1 inside the range, 1 out of the one inside the range, 1 a bit smaller, one that's smaller than the range, 1 that's bigger than the range, and then stuff that's right along the edge points. So probably your code might have misinterpreted the sentence. Unless it is summer, the upper limit is 100 instead of 90. So only the upper limit is changed. So a legal range should be like 60 to 100 if it's summer. So your test case, your code may be failing because they try out examples that look like Squirrelplay 90, and then it is summer. Is that on here? Yeah, it is. They might try out Squirrelplay 100 and it being summer. Is that tried? That's right here. And then you go the other way, right? When it is summer with 60. Is that on here? Yes. No, it's not. Right. Try out that test case right here. Does your code break when that happens? 59 is worth trying. 101 is worth trying. Kind of get what I'm saying there? Yeah, great. And I think it was this sentence right here that people misinterpreted. Yeah, it's a common thing. I did it the first time too, and I was like, what the heck? What am I doing wrong? And then it became my English knowledge was the challenge, not my coding knowledge. Like, I can't interpret this English paragraph and what it means. I despise it when that happens. Fun fact about CodingBat. CodingBat is written by this guy, Nick Parlanti. He is a lecturer down in Stanford. So that's why it says Palo Alto, because that's where Stanford's really close to. I think he's still lecturing to like the CS 106, I think. That's their introductory class at Stanford. I'm not sure if all undergraduates there have to take it. I think a lot of them do. I remember meeting some history majors there that had to take this introductory programming class. Still in Java. And then another fun fact about Stanford and their CS program, because I think some of you have used CodeHS a lot for CS principles for a time. And if you had Mr. Simon's class, I think he used parts and bits and pieces from CodeHS. The CodeHS people are Stanford grads, and the first couple assignments they released were just rebranding of the Stanford assignments. They had like Carol the dog, like that's a Stanford thing that they talk about. And they kind of got some unpopular remarks when they like gave the dog like a hat for Cinco de Mayo and some other things. Right. Interesting. That's when they first started out, when there were like just 3 people on the team. I considered working for them when I came out of college. Chose not to. Cool. Next questions. Funny tangents, asides, stories. None? Okay. So a couple of reminders. Okay, do we need to code any hitboxes for stars in part 1 of the asteroids? Stars are just the background, part 1 of the asteroids, so no, you don't need to code any collisions or anything yet. Part 1 is just the spaceship. Wait, the stars are not asteroids, right? That's part 2. Part 2, there are asteroids floating about, and click on it. Yeah, that's a big part, right? Like, I don't, I gotta think. Do we have collisions? What's the example? We'll just scroll down here, right? Oh, right, and I forgot to mention this before. Part 2, will probably be due either, yeah, so you'll have 1 week to work on part 2, 1 week to work on part 3, and then it's like finals time. So the first Friday after break, that's part 2. Notice that for this assignment, you will be submitting the same asteroids link to me 3 times. That's because for part 1, treat it like a milestone, like a check-in. I need to see a spaceship moving. Then you're going to add more code to it to get like asteroids floating around. And then you submit that same link to me, and I and then I expect to see like asteroids floating around. And then for part 3, you add in like the bullets, scores, or whatever other features. That's the 3rd time you'll turn it in to me, and then I give you a grade for that. 3 parts. Make sense? I think for part 3, we'll see. Let's go down. Oh, nope. I think all the student examples are in part 1. Oops, that's a slide presentation. Part 1, there we go. So you can scroll down and see some people's work here. But these are like final games, right? Is that a nacho? Why is it so weird looking? Where's the front of my ship? Q to shoot. Is that a map? I have no idea what's happening here. Okay. So it looks like this guy didn't implement collision, but he probably got full points. So you notice when the square hit the triangle, it's nacho shape, it didn't die. That's okay. Collision's kind of hard. Oh, it's guacamole. Okay. So with this one, it seems like I'm waiting for an asteroid to hit the spaceship. Alright, maybe I'll just run into one. Go. Yep. So collision eventually will be there. Your final, we were talking about this the other day, will likely be Asteroids Part 3. Mr. Simon and I aren't fans of pen and paper tests during distance learning environment, but we do feel like you need some practice for the AP test. So we have a fancy worksheet for you to do. Whether or not we score it as if it were a test is still to be determined. So the short of it is like yes, but what it looks like is still we're unsure. It won't be a high stakes like 50% of your grade is this final. You have 50 multiple choice questions to do in 35 minutes kind of deal. Like none of that. It's going to be fair. I'll have more on that when we come back from the break, and you'll have like study guides if we do decide on doing some kind of test like that. Probably not though. Probably not having a traditional exam. Good question. My foot is falling asleep. Any other questions or comments? Coding bad problems? Let me refresh my window here to see who's started and who's not. I'll excuse the seniors from coding bat for a little bit of time. Refresh. Alright, so 1 student here hasn't started, 2 students here haven't started, 3 students here haven't started, 4, 5, 6. 4 of those I know are seniors. Let me message this person. Where is he? How are your coding, or how are your asteroids part 1s looking? Do you have the turning happening when you press a key? Nice. So, one thing to be mindful of is don't upload your part 2 code just yet until you get a grade for part 1. Because it's that same repository, it's the same link on GitHub. Pause on that till I give you a grade so I see just the spaceship, and then part 2 you can add in the asteroids. So I can give you points just for the spaceship, and then the next part just for the or just focusing on the asteroids. Make sense? Yes, you can be fancy and use Git branches. Everyone else, everyone's like, uh, it's just one link. Everyone's in master. It's bad practice, but whatever. We're beginning to learn. GitHub's not like an official part of the course in that I teach you all the fancy things about Git. Kind of. Is the whole assignment going to be out of 12? It's going to be 4 points 3 times for my class. I grade out of 4. Mr. Simon, I think, grades out of 10. So each of those milestones are separate. And let's say you weren't able to get a spaceship working for part 1, go ahead and email me after a certain point. I will give you the code for part 1 if you want to get started on part 2. Although doesn't seem like much progress will happen if you aren't able to get a spaceship, because asteroids are weirder spaceships, yeah? It won't help that much if I gave you the spaceship stuff. Okay, so I'm just gonna